testing, 1, 2. Hello. Welcome to this first episode of I don't know what I'm doing. Now I'm playing. So this is awkward. I haven't been doing something like this in a while. It's been a minute. And I'm talking about before the pandemic. A lot of you guys probably don't know who I am, and that's understandable. Guess a reintroduction wouldn't hurt. My name is Salvador. I like to go by Sal, and that's usually what my friends call me. So you all can call me Sal, SAL, not Saul. I really don't like when people call me Saul. I don't know why. It's I mean, like I like to think I don't have an accent, and I know I do. But it's just one of those things where like I tell people my name is Sal, and then like for example, if I go to like a restaurant, like now almost everybody wants to know your name so they can write down your order. And I hate it when I tell them, yeah, my name is Sal, and then they just like, I get my order and it just puts Saul, Saul, and it's like, I get annoyed by it for the reason. And so now I had to tell people, oh yeah, my name is Sal, Sal, and I feel like kind of like a dick or like a jerk, like if I'm like, I don't know, treating them like if they don't know how to spell Sal. Anyway, enough about that. My name is Sal. I like to go by Sal. So this is a little backstory about what I'm doing. This a few years ago, right after high school, right before I started college, I had this. Actually, no, let me go back to high school. Uh, it's where I learned about podcasts kind of late in the not late in the game, but it was kind of like almost all my friends have heard what a podcast was, and I still didn't know what a podcast was. And I was in high school at the time. I think maybe my senior year when I first heard my first podcast, and I remember thinking, "Hey, it's something I might want to like to do." And my friend Omar, more about him a little bit later. He got me into the idea of it, and in high school, every time I had free time, we would just joke around and talk about how we were gonna start a podcast, and we would try to come up with a dumb name to like come up with it. Like I know a popular one that I like to throw it in there like the SNO show, Sal and Omar show. It was dumb, of course. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know like what it took to have a successful podcast. I'm not saying that this is gonna be one, but I hope so. Anyway, um, so yeah, so he planted the idea of it, and anyways, actually I don't remember. It's been a minute, honestly. It's been a minute since I've thought about this particular thing, but pretty much, I'm trying to remember because I did start a podcast eventually. Like I did it on my own. I was still living with my parents at the time. I was doing it like in a walk-in closet. My mom had this walk-in closet she didn't use. Like she stored clothes there, but she stored like the clothes we didn't use. Like like the winter coats you store, like and you take them out right when like with the first like cold air comes in. This when you start taking out your clothes. Like that's also where we should keep like the heavy like the thick sheets like we used to cover ourselves in the winter. Which is Texas, so we only took it out for like a month or two, and then we just kind of put it back away. But anyway, she had this walk-in closet, and I want to say, okay, so this is where it gets a little muddy. I don't remember all the details, but me and Omar, we got accepted to the same University of Houston, and we both went to orientation. He took me to orientation. I think this is what happened first. Yeah, we went to orientation, with my friend Omar, and on the way to orientation to University of Houston orientation, he pulled out his phone and then he recorded an audio, and that was supposed to be like our first episode of the podcast we were gonna do. And I don't know if he still had. I think he lost it, but yeah, that was the first thing we tried, and it was a dumb thing. It was him driving. I think at the time I was giving him shit because he was on his phone, and at the time I still did not know how to drive. I was 18, I think, at the time, and 18, 19, I don't know. Uh, I didn't know how to drive, so I was giving this guy shit, like if I knew what I was doing, but like that was just me at the time, and that was pretty much the essence of that podcast. Yeah, it was supposed to be kind of like a funny thing we were doing, but it didn't go anywhere. And then we kind of just forgot about it, and he forgot about it. And then eventually, I started working because I had to pay for school and stuff. And I had a little bit of extra money saved up, and that's when I decided to buy the podcast equipment that Amazon had this like kit. I don't know if they still have it, but it was like a recording kit. It came with a mic, a mixer, and the cables to connect to your computer. And that's all it was. And that's how I started. And I remember at the time I also bought like a SoundCloud subscription. Like I paid like for the whole year thing, so I could upload as much as I want. And I just went like that's it. Like that's how I started a podcast. I didn't have a name for it. I think at the time I wanted to call. It was hard finding out a name on my own. Let alone I couldn't figure out with a friend. I couldn't figure it out on my own. I didn't want to call it the Sal Show. I thought using my own name was kind of like self conceited. I thought it was kind of like I don't want people to get the wrong idea of me. So and plus like I feel like only like famous people or people with catchy names can use like like your name for like a show or something. Like nobody wants to see the Sal Show. It sounds boring, Sal. It's like hey man, did you see the Bob Show? It sounds fucking dumb. So I didn't want to call it something so generic or dumb. I wanted like some pizzazz, something that will catch people's attention. And I never thought about anything, and I remember I wanted to call it the No Name Podcast, and I found out some other failed podcasts had that name already, and I didn't like I'm pretty sure the guys wouldn't have sued or anything, but I was like just in case, like what if I do blow up and these guys like later on decide to take some lawsuit against me? Like I was just being cautious, so like I didn't have a name, but and I did I remember I set up a schedule. I was like I'm gonna put out 2 episodes a week, and my episodes were like 10 minutes long, and I remember at the time, like I would get a little notebook. I would like keep it with me, and I would write down like ideas that I would try to talk. At the time, one of my idols, who still is like one of my favorite comedians, Bill Burr, was my sole inspiration. Because at the time, I started hearing to his podcast, like the Monday Morning Podcast, really really good podcast. And essentially, why I chose to imitate him was not only because he was my favorite comedian. He was like one of my heroes, or still is one of my heroes. It's just the fact that he did it alone. He does it alone, like most of the times, and I feel like that's a good person to copy. He knows how to articulate. He talks to himself. He knows how to be funny by himself, and I figure that's something I can try and do. And I never researched like what he did and stuff. I kind of winged it, and I just kind of like wrote on a piece of paper like ideas that I wanted to talk about. Like, I have like a list of things that I wanted to talk about, and I try to make funny or try to I try to write jokes because at the time still like it's kind of like a dream that I want to be some sort of comedian. Like I don't have to be stand up comedian. Like, I mean that's still like my goal. Like I want to do that, but I feel like now at this time of age you can bring comedy to almost anything. There's comedy everywhere. There's music, TV shows, skits. It's really good, and I like that idea that I don't have to be stuck in like just stand up because it's a funny thing. It's a hard thing to do. Just going up there and talking to people. It's difficult. It's one of the hardest things I ever done because public speaking in general sucks. And trust me, I had a lot of social anxiety, and going up there like doing stand up the first few times I did it, it was nerve breaking. It probably still is to me. I haven't done it in a minute like before the pandemic. I haven't done it, and I know that shit will like fucking scare the shit out of me. Like I don't know. It's just like thinking about it now. It gives me stage fright. But anyway, back to the thing. So yeah, so I started the podcast, and at the time I didn't know I had gotten some friction within my friend group. Like because I was still fresh out of high school, so I still have some people that talk to me. I don't know if you guys ever did that thing when you graduated high school, where you still try your best to keep in touch with your friends. But the thing about graduating high school is that like 85 to like 95 people who thought you were your friends just kind of disappear. Not in a bad way. It's just like you didn't have anything in common. There was nothing that keeping you together other than the fact that you went to the same school. And I guess those are the times where you realize who's your really friend, like who really matters. Like for me, like I said, my friend Omar, I still talk to him after high school. My friend Mike, my friend Junior or Fidel, and all these guys, like my close friends. Eventually, we ended up doing a podcast together down the line. But this thing before I stopped doing my podcast because I remember I was working. I needed a little bit more money for college, so I took more hours on my job, and I was doing full time school, and pretty much I didn't have time for the podcast, and I let that idea go for a minute, and I always said I'm gonna come back, and then I never did, and this is when I knew I had some friction going because after that I had like I still went to a couple parties over my high school friends, so talked to some people, and that thing will always come up. It's like, hey, what happened to your podcast? And a lot of them will say the same thing. Oh yeah, I used to hear it. It was actually kind of entertaining. It was kind of funny, and I knew at the moment like I fucked up. I shouldn't have stopped that because when I started hearing those stories, it had been like 6 months, maybe a year, and I was like, fuck, I should have kept at it. And I regret it. I still regret it to this point. I should have focused on that, but at the time I still had these dreams that I wanted to go to college. I wanted to become a teacher, and it's a lie. I told myself. I think at the time it was a safety net thing. I told myself, like we're all scared of failure, and at the time, those high school times was fucking weird. I remember I was already really depressed at the time. It was I was going through some shit. I was young. It's the whole typical. You don't know what the fuck you're doing with your life. They just kind of like after high school, you're kind of getting taken care of. That people tell you what to do. Hey, do this essay, do that. You need to apply to this college and that. And after that, it's kind of like you're on your own. And you realize like, oh shit, like I don't know what I'm doing. Like I've been. I mean, at least for me, it was like, oh no, like I've been like listening to people do this, do that, do the right thing. Go to college, get a career, and the whole thing. And like the time like before that, I had given up an idea because the idea that me wanting to be a comedian or some sort of entertainer came to me like way back when I was like in seventh grade. And by the time I graduated high school, I had forgotten about that. And I had friends that I had told that that's something I wanted to do, and they all told me you should go for that dream. And it was just that thing. I was like, oh, it's never gonna happen. And the truth is like it does happen in a lot of people, and it is a lot of luck, but it's also a lot of commitment. Like a lot of people, and almost anything you'll hear, like any musician or any comedian, anybody who made it big in a profession that they love, they put in the work. And I'm not mean like part time like how I did it. Like they put in the fucking work. I've met comedians. I've like listened to podcasts. I've been in the comedy world. Like there's comedians out there who jump into it. Like they just jump into the deep. They're broke for like the first few years of their life. They're barely making rent, and it's not like it's a 2 year thing or then you start making money. Like some of them are broke for years, like 10 years, maybe even more. And eventually, like a lot of them do make it. Well, like I said, like they don't make it, but like the top ones is like Bill Burr, Kevin Hart, Dave Chappelle, and all those people. Like well, Dave Chappelle's special breed. I mean, he got famous young, but then again, like if you hear how he started, he was still in high school. He was taking trains to New York when he was doing stand up. Like I said, he jumped into it. A lot of people did, like him and Bill Burr. Like that's a good example. He didn't really get really popular until like in his thirties and like mid thirties. That's like you could go trace his career and you can see like he did things like in the mid 2000s here and there. Like he was in the Chappelle show, but no one really knew who he was. And like now he's getting movie deals. He's in the Star Wars show and stuff. But yeah, so it's a scary thing, and nobody wants to do that for years. No one wants to struggle for years, and that's understandable. And that's the fear is understandable, and that was the thing that I was going through. Why I had given up on the idea. And then the podcast was like a little like, hey, you know what, maybe I can do this on the side, and if it picks up, I'll do it more. And then I stopped doing that and just to go to school, and which I regret it because, ask me now, I have no degree. I dropped out after 2 years. It was a train wreck. It was just my heart wasn't in it, and if your heart's not in something, you're not gonna. It's gonna be hard for you to succeed. That's just a fact, I guess. But yeah, that's a long introduction, I guess. But yeah, that's what happened. That's why my podcast fell and everything. Yeah, I let it go. I was following the wrong dream that I wanted, or not the right dream. I was just following something because I thought I had to. Fast forward like a year later, 2 years. I don't remember. A year later, I believe. Uh, Me, Omar, my friend Junior, and Mike get together, and we decide to make a podcast. So, I think at first it was me, Mike, and Omar. They didn't know Junior. Mike knew Junior, but he didn't know my guy did. Junior was kind of like I didn't go to school with him, but I knew him through mutual friends, and we just kind of built this friendship over time. Me and him had a lot of things in common. We both kind of grew up relatively around the same area. Both Hispanic. We had a lot of things in common pretty much, and we hit it off pretty good. We became really good friends, and I introduced him to Mike and Omar, and I guess they met through the podcast, and then that's when it started. We did this. We called it the Socket Podcast because we couldn't think of a better name, and that's what we did. And it was a train wreck. We did not coordinate very well. We didn't know what we were doing. At some point, Omar was doing most of the work, and then he got burned out and he gave up, and then I did most of the talking and like I tried to like carry the show, and then I kind of got burned out, and then it went back to Omar, and Mike was just trying to do his best to help us all out, and at some point towards the end it was just me and Mike kind of carrying the whole thing at the end. Like me and him were just trying to have a conversation, and it was fun. Like we loved it, but we liked it better when all four of us were together, and at some point we started small. We started with one small mic in Mike's room, and eventually I got my own place, and then we went there, and then sorry. At some point, it just became a thing where we were just using that excuse to kind of hang out and chill because I mean, no one listened to our podcast. Honestly, it wasn't a good podcast. It wasn't the best podcast. Unfortunately, I wish it was like something to be proud of, but we had a couple of few hits episodes that we liked, controversial moments, and like I said, it's a lot to do, like a lot to do video, and we started audio and then we switched to video because a lot of people wanted video, and it's hard to like post the video the day of or like really soon, and that's what people really want. They want to think quick because especially because we were talking about current events, and we can't talk about like say someone got shot today. We recorded at night, and then we wouldn't post till next week, and that was just kind of like by the time those news was old, like something new was coming out in the world, and it was a crazy time. Like that was around the time where like I think our first couple episodes was around like the 2016 election when Trump got elected, and shit was crazy. Like it was crazy shit going on every fucking weekend. We couldn't keep up, and we didn't have the technology to like catch up. Render the videos. Omar did all like he was, I guess, because he was the producer of the show, and he tried his best. But it's only so much you can do with so much technology you have. It's just happening. It's just over time. It just kind of like we just dropped the ball, and you know it went nowhere, and eventually I don't know. I think I made the choice to stop the podcast because no one really wanted to do it towards the end. No one really wanted like towards the end, like it was just like me and Mike recorded. Mike barely wanted to come. We recorded, and we get the flash drive, and Omar will pick it up a different day, and then we'll release the episode like in 2 weeks. And then I don't know. It was just terrible. It was just bad. It it wasn't going anywhere. No one was listening to us, and I just decided to pull the plug, pun intended, from the socket. And I talked to the guys, and I made a statement that it's time to end the show. It's time to end it. Our hearts were not in it anymore, and we could feel the fatigue. We were just doing it just because, and I guess we felt obligated to some extent. I don't know. And then we all had things going. Like Omar and Mike were still going to college. I think, well, yeah, Junior, he was going through some a rough patch himself. I myself was not in a good place, but when I decided to call it quits, uh, I was getting my life together a little bit. I was getting back out there, and I started dating again. And it's just like, and it's funny though, because that's how I met my fiance right now through the podcast. Because she pretended to be interested in it, but she didn't like. I knew she didn't like it. She told me she didn't like it. She told me she only tried to listen to it because she wanted to get to know me, and that's not the best thing to get to know me. It was terrible. Like I said, but I'm happy with the memories we had recording this podcast. I know podcasts were shit, but it was special to us, I guess. And but it doesn't matter if it's special to you because it's not special to anybody else. No one really watched it, listened to it, and yeah. So yeah, eventually I pulled the plug on it. I called it quits. I said, "Hey, we gotta wrap this. Our heart's not in it anymore. We're not really doing our best. So if we're not doing your best, where the fuck are we doing it?" So called it quits, and that's it. That's pretty much like we have not. I have not touched technology or anything. I remember I tried doing things on the side here and there, but it went nowhere. It's just pretty much I gave up on the whole trying to do something on the internet. But there was always something in the back of my head. Like I always came back to the idea. Like I should do something. Like I still have the equipment. I can record something. I can record something, even if it's just audio. And I hear about like how Joe Rogan says like just you have to do it consistently. Do it over and over again. And that's pretty much what all those guys did. Like, every successful podcast is people just doing it over and over again, and they improved over time. And that's something we should have done. That's something I should have done, and that would have helped. And I think now I really fucked up now because I feel like now today, today and age, I need a gimmick. I need a gimmick for me to you know record like to make it because when I started at least 20 late 2015 early 2016 it was this thing where like podcasts were blowing up still, and everybody could like make one. And I feel like if we just kept at it we could have had somewhat of a following. But I feel like now you need a gimmick. Not only just you have to keep going at it, you need a gimmick. Like now, there's too many podcasts. It's too much. It's like no one's like this right I'm doing right now is a risk by itself. I don't know how many people are gonna listen this far. I don't know if you listen this far, thank you for listening. I'm sorry if you hated it. I promise I'm trying my best to get better. This is just the beginning. This is something. But yeah, gee, I lost my train of thought. Yeah. So that's the thing, yeah. It's hard to start a podcast now, and I'm trying to think, go back into my train of thought. Yeah. So now I'm at this position where like I still want to do something online, something internet, something related. I mean, it doesn't have to be a podcast, but I don't know where to start, honestly. To be honest, this I decided to do this podcast is I'm going through this rough patch again in my life. Not a terrible like I'm happy with my fiance, but career wise, like I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I've talked to her about it. She knows, and I've gotten depressed over the past few weeks because I'm 25 now, and I'm in the same position I was when I was 20, relatively in a way. Like a lot of people tell me I've grown. I've gotten in some better shape. I've changed my look from what I looked back then, but I feel like I'm still in the same place. I'm still living around the same area. I've not really moved up. I mean, I did move up a little bit on my job, working in the fast food industry, but after COVID, it just kind of fucked shit things. And I feel like I went back to square one pretty much. But now I have a almost wife that I'm gonna think about. I had to, I don't want to say I had to provide 100% for her because, it's 50, a relationship like that is 50-50, marriage is 50-50. So I don't want to say I'm providing 100% for her, but like now I have that, you know, uh, I feel like I'm obligated to provide that 50%. Like I have to, no matter what, provide that. So it's this anxiety now, like now I can't quit on whatever, like, my adult responsibilities, getting a job, bringing money to the table because I'm obligated that to know, and it's not her fault. Like, I love her. She supports me. If if we could, I know she would make me quit my job, and if we could afford it, she would say just focus on what you want to do. But unfortunately, it's not the world we live in. Unfortunately, we're both broke. We're both trying to make it out there in life, and we're both trying to go back to school, fix our life together. But even then, I still want to do this. This is something like I know for some reason my heart it is like the fact that I think about it maybe like at least once a week this idea as I know something that I like. Because I do think about those moments and the closet and the moments when we were in Mike's room and we were in my shitty apartment. I think about those moments, and even though that, like we didn't go anywhere, just that struggle. I like that struggle. I like that feeling. Like I remember like when I was doing it by myself in the closet, I was like, I gotta think of something funny, and at the time I remember I got into like jogging a lot, going outside because at the time I didn't know I had anxiety, but I had anxiety and I thought it was just something else wrong with me. But I would go for these runs, and I was like, at the time, I was still scared of dogs for some reason, and every now and then I find a stray dog that would chase me, and I thought that was funny. I tried to make a rant about how why justifying why I should be scared of dogs because I don't know stray dogs. I don't know where they came from. They could be some violent, like maybe this is like a trained dog by some like hitmen, and they're trained to like go for your balls. I don't know that shit. I'm gonna run, because if you tell people like people, especially like my girl, like a lot of like dog lovers. If you tell them something, oh yeah, I'm kind of scared of dogs, they'll be like, why are you scared of dogs? They're not harmful. They're like the best things ever. Like I've seen dogs bark at me, and then they like start playing with me, or some shit like that. They all tell me something like that, and it's like, oh fuck you. Like I don't. Just because you like dogs does not justify why I should not be scared of them. Especially if they're big and they're running at you. Fuck that. I'm not gonna stay and find out if they're gonna want to play with me. But yeah, like see like that. I did shit like that. Like I try to make rants. I try to like I guess I don't know build a personality because I was always told I was too monotone. So that's something that and even though at the time I didn't get anywhere, I liked the fact that I tried like thinking about those memories. So that's why like right now, like I'm not even in nowhere computer. I'm in my truck in the middle of the night. It's fucking hot as hell right now. I'm sweating. It's no AC, but because I like this, like I have this like smile on my face. I like that I'm doing this, and this is why I want to do it. This is like I, it's gonna take some time before I go back into video or anything like that. I promise you guys, but this is where I'm planting the seeds right now. This is where I'm gonna start. I don't know who's gonna hear this. And if I just hope you stick with me, all right? That's pretty much all I have to say to that. Thanks for listening. I don't have a name for this. Again, I had a name for a podcast idea. I call it Salcast, like SAL cast. And like I said, I don't like using my name, and I was hesitant about it. But our friend that made a logo for me, now, and I don't know. It's just one of those things where I was like, I like it. Like the logo is fucking amazing, but I don't like the fact my name is in it. I don't want to feel like a douche, and maybe it doesn't matter, but it's just me. Uh, so I guess I can call it for Saltcast. I'll call it Saltcast now. Maybe I'll call this section Saltcast, and then maybe down the line I'll start a new podcast and call it something else. I mean, no, because mostly this is just gonna be me, maybe ranting, maybe just talking to myself. Uh, Anyways, you guys, take care. Have a good day. I will talk to you another day. I don't know where I'm gonna post this. Just stay tuned. Stay tuned. I'll figure it out, guys. I'll figure it out, and that's what I like. I like that I'm figuring this out. Hopefully, it gets some friction somewhere. Hopefully, it helps me with this anxiety I've been feeling. Hope me, I feel a little bit more fulfilled in life. I don't know. Uh, thanks again. Thanks for listening, guys. See you next time.